Hi, ladies. Welcome to I don't know what you want to call it, live call this week, the live coaching call, the live in person where we can discuss and talk and just kind of troubleshoot how things are going. And then I wanted to share with you some ideas of just something that I think is an important part of health. And I kind of alluded to it in the Facebook post. I don't know if you saw that this morning while I was doing my list. I was thinking about you guys and thinking about the things we were going to talk about today. And I thought, I'm just going to get in there and just give them a little teaser of what's to come. So, for those of you who are on the call, hooray! I am so glad that you are here. If you have any questions or comments or anything that you need help with, I would love to take that time right now to work with you. If there's just something in your life that you wish were a little bit better or a little bit different, this is a great time to talk about it, and we can kind of just walk you through it. We've got Jared on here, and plus, just to be in a community of women, sometimes when we put our brains together, we can come up with the most amazing things and help each other through whatever it is that we need help with. So if any of you who are on the call, if you have a question or a comment or need help or just need some women to walk you through whatever you are facing, now's your time.
I actually have a question for you.
Okay, ask away.
I know I'm probably an anomaly, and this is not everyone's situation, but with the um, arthritis that I have in my lower back, I really struggle with the the bridges and
Mm.
all, and that hurts so bad. So I'm just asking, what else could I do to replace that one that would still like give me that same benefit instead of the doing the bridges? Is there something else you could recommend that I could?
I love that because even if somebody's struggle isn't necessarily arthritis, there might be another reason why this move or one of the other moves might not feel great for them or might be painful or they might not have the strength to do it yet. So it's a great question. Jared, I don't know if you're in a place where you can respond to this. I figure we'll turn this over to the guy who has the education and knowledge to answer this one.
I am so sorry. I am mobile. I am on the move today. And Kim, you cut out on my phone for your entire comment.
Oh,
And
no
so I have
worries.
no idea what you guys are talking about. I think
Yes,
you're
yes,
about your back arthritis and was it
yes,
bridges that are still killing you?
yes. I was just saying, like, just from my, experience, and maybe some other people are experiencing this as well, but I
Sure.
just have really bad arthritis, and the bridges are just hurting so bad. So I was just wondering what else I could do
Sure.
instead of those bridges. Thank you.
Good. Great question. And so the advice that I would give, the blanket advice that as a physical therapist I give every day is if you can't do the exercise pain-free, we need to alter it or modify it in such a way that you might be able to do it pain-free. And so smaller range of motion, different angle, like there's some manipulations there that are available. If we can't manipulate it to a pain-free thing, then just skip it. Like just do not do that exercise. Do not do that exercise. You can just skip right over it. I mean, there are certainly other benefits to performing the other exercises that you're doing at this time. And so thinking for just a second as far as alternatives to that, and it's the double leg version of the bridge that you're referring to, right, Kim?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
And so it should be better if we've got the arthritis, if we've got some stenosis going on, it should be better if you can maintain that posterior pelvic tilt. And it should be better if you just don't go up so high into the bridge. But if focusing on those two things, so like forcing your back to stay flat throughout the movement and then only lifting your butt up just like maybe an inch or two off of the ground, if neither of those modifications help it to feel better or improve your ability to perform it, then just skip that exercise. Just tells me that we're not quite there yet with you.
Okay, I'll try that. I'll try the modification of just lifting a little bit is all.
Yeah,
So that's a good
yeah.
idea.
And so random anatomy lesson, but with arthritis in the back, they typically don't like extended positions. And so if I'm a betting man, well, if you present like most people do, you would rather sit than stand. Like, and if you stand too long, it starts to increase pain and fatigue in your back. And then as soon as you sit down, it's like, oh God, that feels better. Um, so apply that principle to that bridge exercise. The higher you go up into a bridge, the more extension or bending backwards there is in your back. And so if we can just minimize that position, you should, again, according to the textbooks, respond better to it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, awesome. I was just thinking about how there are times, because I've been doing these core exercises for years and have been in all different stages of life and with different, sore muscles or injuries or like tweaked my back or whatever it is. Um, the things that I don't know if you've been following along with the workouts in this challenge, but one of my favorite exercises to do is like when I'm feeling tired or fatigued or have back pain, or even like if I'm crampy or on my period, like I just love to do some belly braces and just really focus on that engagement of my just of my core, my whole core, like turning on those muscles, feeling them go all the way from the back of my spine to the front. I find that it helps if I do this when I'm sitting or standing, just as a different way to feel those muscles. But for those times when you're just not feeling it, or you've got pain, or you've got problems, I love the idea of just consistency over perfection, like not following the plan exactly, but still showing up in a way that's going to keep you moving towards your goal. So in this case, I want to tighten my tummy. Consistency is going to look like I'm finding a way to engage those muscles a little bit every day. And sometimes that means in the car. And sometimes that means like while I am, doing the dishes or whatever, I can still find little ways to tweak it and make it work for me. So Kim, I love that. Like you've got back pain. It's really hard to do those bridges, but you still want to keep showing up for yourself. You still want to keep making progress. And so you're like, what can I do to tweak it for me, to make it fit into my routine, to make it fit into what I want to do? So I love that idea. And while some people might not have arthritis problems, maybe they have a time problem. And it's like, I only have 5 minutes. How can I make this work for me? And I just love that idea of customizing it to fit what you need. So good. Thanks for bringing that up, Kim. That was great. Is there anybody else that needs help with anything? Like if you have a question, a comment, if you just need some women to rally around you, that's what this time is for. You can leave a comment or you can unmute yourself. And then if there isn't any, I've got some things that I want to talk about that I'm so excited to share with you guys today. So I'll give you just a second. Like Jared says, it's that awkward Zoom call moment where we're just kind of waiting. If things come up though, just pop a comment in the chat and I will be sure to see it and respond. Okay, so last week, Jared talked all about anatomy and the physical side of what we do here in the Mommy Tummy Fix program. And you've seen it because we're doing core exercises every day and we're showing up. And if we have time, we're trying to squeeze in the list cardio and we're doing all the things that are going to help our physical self, right? Because when we think of health, most of the time we automatically think about, okay, I need to eat healthy. I need to exercise. Like that's what it comes down to be healthy, right? That's part of it. The physical part is part of being healthy. But honestly, health is so much more than just this little physical section. We've got mental health, we've got emotional health, spiritual health, and then social health, which is kind of funny. You think social, like what does that have to do with my health? But social is actually the piece that covers all the relationships that you have in your life. And today I want to talk about the relationship that you have with you. because we automatically go to a relationship with our partner or our spouse, or we go to relationships with our kids or our parents or our siblings, like, and those are super important. But I really want to focus on this relationship that we have with ourselves. Also, and I shared this on the Facebook post that I did this morning, the word health, if I were to write it out, it comes from the root word, or heal. You notice the word heal is in there. And it actually comes from a really old word that means whole, or a thing that is complete in itself. Isn't that such a beautiful definition? Like, health is a journey of healing, and it's also making something complete. And so I love that we are on this journey of healing our bodies and our minds and our spirits. And I honestly think that so many of us have to heal the relationship that we have with ourselves. We need to make it whole again. So I really want you to take a look at the relationship that you have with yourself and with your body. Okay. So your mom, like, this isn't a relationship you spend too much time thinking about, or is it? Is it something you think about all the time? And most of the time, it's usually not a very good relationship. That's what I have found as I have worked with so many mamas. So you've got relationships with your spouse, you've got with your partner, your kids, your mom, like, but I want you to think about how you treat yourself. How do you talk to yourself? Think for a minute about how you talk to somebody you love, like your best friend or your sister or your mom. How do you talk to them? It's usually pretty kind. It comes from a place of love, right? Now I want you to think for a minute, what's that conversation going on in your head of how you talk to yourself? I can honestly say that for me, for a very long time, and even still to this day, I had some thoughts where I thought, oh, that's very nice. Usually we aren't very kind to ourselves. The conversation that's going on in our heads isn't great. How many of you have ever had the thought, oh, if I was skinnier, then I would like myself? Or if I lost weight, that's when I'd be proud of myself. That's when I could look in the mirror and like actually feel happy. I know that I have. I have had that thought so many times. And there have been a lot of times in my life, especially after my first few kids, I was in my 20s, like, I did crash diet after extreme workout after extreme workout. And I would just think in my head, well, I have to do these things. I have to restrict and I have to work myself so hard, because if I can make myself look a certain way, that's when I would suddenly have self-confidence. I would suddenly just, be glowing with the self-confidence and self-worth that I felt. And I would even have self-love. And so the reason why I would lose weight and the reason I'd like work so hard is from a place of shame. I would say the meanest things to myself. And then I would go to these extremes to lose weight, to earn my own self-love, and to be worthy of a relationship, of a kind relationship with myself. And what I am here to tell you is that if you are in that abusive cycle, that abusive relationship with yourself, it's not going to get any better until you do the mental work and the hard work to change it. Because that type of relationship with yourself, where you're mean, where you pick yourself apart, where you tell yourself you're not worthy of love or confidence, that kind of relationship doesn't last. Like, if you had a friend that treated you that way, I would tell you it's time to cut ties. It's time to be done. That's just not a relationship you want in your life. So in order to lose weight, in order to be physically healthy, you also have to be socially healthy. And part of that social health is that relationship with yourself. You have to love yourself right now. And you have to work on this relationship with yourself of self-love, self-confidence, self-worth right now. You have to start to heal it. I've said this to so many ladies before. Before you can shed 1 pound of weight on your body, you have to shed the weight that's happening between your ears first, because we're carrying around a lot of baggage. We're carrying around a lot of garbage in our heads. So just like we talk about the baby steps in this challenge, we're just doing these little things every day, these little tweaks in our core workouts every day. You'll notice the workouts are very similar day after day, but we do just one or two things to change it, to increase the intensity, to keep progressing. It's those small changes that lead to the big results. That's how we have to start taking care of ourselves and loving ourselves in the same way. It's just little things every day. So let's start first by just kind of addressing the way that we talk to ourselves. And I've shared this story before. Some of you might have heard this, but a few years ago, I have another company where I work with my sisters, and we are in the recipe space and cookbook space. I do recipe development and do a lot with food. And so I had this regular cooking segment on a daytime local TV show. And when I was on there, sometimes because it's local TV, sometimes they would like pull me in to do other segments. And so there was one day I'm on set and I just finished my cooking segment, and they were like, "Hey, can you stick around for just a minute?" And it's like live TV. And they're like, "We just want to have you help with one other segment that we're doing on self-love." And they said, "Will you just share one part of your body that you love and why?" Because we want to help women learn how to love themselves. And you guys, like, I went into this mental freak out. I was just like, okay, I've got to think of something I love about my body. And I had had two kids at this point, and I hadn't learned what true health really looked like. I was just doing these extreme workouts and restricting and binging and dieting and just trying to figure out the food and what that looked like and how I could be healthy. And in my head, skinny equaled healthy. And if you would go back and look at those pictures of me, you would think, like, you would look at my body and be like, "Oh, is she even taking care of herself?" I don't know. It was because I didn't know how. And it was because I didn't have that relationship with myself. So anyways, I had to think about, what is this part of my body that I loved and why? And I would think of a part and be like, okay, I like my hair. And immediately my brain would come up with all these reasons why I shouldn't share that. Like I would be like, okay, so I like my hair, it's good. And then the thoughts in my head would be like, well, yeah, it's always flat though. You don't know how to curl it right. And you've got your dad's genes where you get greasy hair after 24 hours. And so it kind of is always greasy a little bit. And you have gray hairs coming in and you're so young. And just all of these thoughts would come and be like, yeah, then I can't share that. Everyone's going to see that. They're going to pick it apart. So then I would be like, okay, I like my legs. And then immediately the thoughts in my head would be like, what? Why would you say that? Like they are chubbier than everyone else's. They wiggle when you walk. They have cellulite on them. Like you've never had good legs. And I literally did this for every body part. I was picking it apart, and I ended up saying on the show, because I was stewing about it the whole time. I get on the show and I end up just saying, well, I love my feet because they carry me and get me to where I need to go. And that's true. That's good. But it really was a cop out because truly, I just didn't love myself and I didn't love my body. And I was focusing on all the things that I found wrong with my body. And I was so rude about it to myself. Would I ever say those things to my daughter about her body? Like, oh my gosh, your hair's always flat and it's greasy like dad's. Heck no, I would never say that. And would I say it to my sister? No, it's terrible. And would I tell it to my best friend? Like, oh, no, your legs wiggle when you walk. They're supposed to wiggle when you walk. And no, I would never say that to my best friend, never. And so why do I allow myself to talk to myself this way? It's a really toxic, abusive relationship. And it's one that if anybody else were to see and observe this relationship, they would say, get out. Or if anyone else treated me this way, I would get out. So we have to stop. We have to stop beating ourselves up. We have to start recognizing the good that is in us. We have to start being patient with ourselves. So let's start that work of repairing this relationship to make that relationship whole, to do the healing that we need to do. After you have a baby, and if you have diastasis recti, if you have that ab separation, the mommy tummy fix is about helping you to feel whole, to heal that tear and that rip that happened in your abs. You have to do the same thing with the relationship with yourself. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time, But consider this, even you just being here and listening to this is a baby step in the right direction. I want you to think about if you're at a train station and there's a dozen train tracks, right? And they all the tracks come into the station and then all the tracks lead out of the station. I want you to think for a minute, where is the train track of your relationship headed? Is it headed towards a place where you have a lot of self-love and you're kind to yourself and you have confidence and you know you're worthy? Or is the train track you are on going to lead you down this abusive path of being mean to yourself for years and years and years? Did you know that in order to change the outcome of where that train is headed, all that they do is one little simple switch on the tracks? The difference between heading to New York and Miami is just one switch on the tracks. So maybe right now your relationship is headed to the South Pole, straight down. What I'm hoping today is that you have one takeaway that is just a small switch in your thinking that will lead you to that tropical beach instead of the South Pole, where there's peace and sunshine and contentment and love. It just starts with one tiny switch. So if you want to, grab a piece of paper, or you can just think about this as we talk through this. But I'm going to run you through just a quick exercise that I think can be so powerful. And I think, Kim, you might have done this exercise with me before, but this is something I like to do at least once a year because it is so powerful. And if you're not in a place where you can write down anything, like you just listen and you can come back and do this later. But I highly encourage you to write it down because this exercise is how we start to rewire our brains. And it's one of the best ways to change the thoughts we have about ourselves. Okay, so backstory on this really quick. Jared and I worked with a relationship and marriage coach, and we wanted to work on strengthening our marriage. And the first few sessions were just me. And like Jared wasn't even there. And I remember being like, wait, how is this working on our relationship? How are we working on us as a couple if it's just me that you are like meeting with? And she goes, actually, it starts with you first and the relationship that you have with yourself first. You have to make that relationship whole with you before you can work on your couple relationship. And so this relationship with you is the foundation of every other relationship you have in your life. If you don't fully love yourself, you cannot fully love everyone else around you. And so if other relationships start to crumble or fall apart, or you kind of maybe fall out of friendship with other people, this relationship with you can be rock solid and carry you through whatever you face. Okay, so let's do this exercise. If you have a piece of paper, you can write it down. If not, just think about it. I want you to picture you as you are right now, whatever age you are, just you right now, whatever clothes you're wearing today, picture that. You can close your eyes if you want to do this, but you're sitting in a room on a couch. And I want you to imagine that somebody walks in and they just hand you this baby girl, and they tell you, here you go. You have a chance to talk to yourself as a baby. What would you say to this sweet baby girl? I want you to use you are statements. I want you to write down things you want this sweet little baby girl to hear, things that you love about this baby. I want you to shower this baby with compliments. This baby is so perfect. You could say things like, you are so perfect with so much potential. You are so perfectly made. You are perfectly you. What does that baby need to hear? You never would look at a baby and list their faults, right? Babies are perfect. They're cute and they're squishy and they're just glowing with potential. What if you could go back in time and talk to yourself as a baby? What would you say to you? I just want you to think about it for a minute. What would you say to that baby? Okay, so you're still sitting on that couch. They take the baby girl away. And then in walks this cute little girl. She's like, let's say 5 years old. And this little 5-year-old sits on the couch next to you with just eyes full of wonder and hope, and she's in kindergarten and she's just loves her life. And you recognize this is you, this is your 5-year-old self, and you have the opportunity to talk to you as a 5-year-old. What would you say? I want you to use you are statements. Just shower her with compliments. Think about the things this little girl needs to hear. I want you to, if you have a paper, write it down, but be so gentle and kind. Imagine that you're just holding her little hands and you look her right in the eyes while you say these things. And she's looking up to you because she trusts you and she loves you. And all that this sweet little girl wants is just to be loved in return. Is this little girl strong? Is she creative? Is she fun? Is she funny? What does she love to do? She is so perfectly made. She is so wholly worthy. You have to tell her all these things. So just take a minute and think about what you would tell your 5-year-old self if you had the chance. Okay, so this little 5-year-old girl leaves, and in walks a teenage girl. And it's you, and it's right in the middle of those really hard teenage years. Puberty is in full swing, hormones are raging. Like, you know her struggles. You know what she has to deal with every single day. You know her insecurities. And so I want you to think about, what does teenage you need to hear? How does she need to be lifted up? What can you remind her of? How can you shower her with love and compliments? What can you say that's going to build her up? Something I had to say to me was you have to stop comparing yourself to others, because you're beautiful and you shine bright, even if you don't see it. And it's her, and I just wanted me to know, I just want to say, it's your uniqueness. It's the things that make you different that's going to take you where you need to go. And I just reminded her that, like, your heart is good and you're genuine. And I told her that if you just keep being you, people will feel that. I told her she's a daughter of God, even if she doesn't know what that means yet, but that he's in her life. I reminded her, and I said, you have goodness inside of you. So think about, what does teenage you need to hear? What does she need to know? Take a minute, write it down. I'm sorry, I'm so emotional. I've done this exercise so many times, but it just always gets me because we don't talk to ourselves this way. And it's pretty powerful when we do. Okay. So the teenage girl leaves, and in walks you. You as you are right now. So you walk towards the couch and you sit down, and it's you having the chance to talk to you, to talk kindly, to hold your own hands and look yourself in the eye, to show love, to show up for yourself. And you look at you sitting on that couch, you see the burdens that you carry. You see how hard you are trying. You see those struggles that you are facing. Whatever they are, it's time to show yourself some love, some kindness. Maybe you're seeing yourself in a different light for the first time, and you give yourself grace. You give yourself patience, because, gosh dang it, you need it. And so I want you to use this time to build yourself up. Keep using those you are statements. What would you say to you right now? Shower yourself with compliments in every area of your life. You have to celebrate the small wins like we do in this challenge. If you showed up to do a core workout, yes, we're so proud of you. How can you celebrate those wins in your life right now? Those little things that you are doing. I want you to talk about your character. You know your heart. I want you to talk about your soul and your soulfulness, like that spirit inside of you. Talk about your purpose. You are made for great things. You are a good mom. Even if you don't feel like it some days, what is a good mom? It's not something that can be easily defined because it's different for everybody. But you are good. Talk about your emotions. What are you struggling with right now? Recognize those. What do you need to hear right now? I want you to talk to you like you would a best friend. Talk to her like a mom would. Do you need to remind yourself you are perfectly made, just like you were when you were a little baby? Do you need to remind yourself of those eyes you had at age 5 that were so full of wonder and hope and just wanted people to love her? Do you need to remind yourself that you are so beautiful, that you have the gift of loving others, and that it's time to start loving yourself just as hard? What gifts do you see in you sitting there on that couch? What do you need to tell her that's going to lift her up? Now, as you're doing this, that bully voice might come into your head, that negative thoughts of like, oh, I can't say that to myself. I don't deserve that. Or that's not true. Just move those to the side. Just push them out of the way and be like, I'm going to actually focus on those things that I need to hear right now. Because that's what today is about. Today is about building her up, reminding her of her goodness, and reminding her that you love her. The baby, the child, the teenager that you talk so kindly to, they're still there. They're inside of you right now. We have to show up for all of them, all of us at these different phases of our life, the baby, the child, that struggling teenager, now us. We have to speak just as kindly to ourselves now as we did back then. So this exercise that we did, talking to yourself differently than maybe you've done before, this is setting a foundation. It's helping you get into alignment. Have you ever been to a chiropractor? Now, Jared's a physical therapist. We don't go to many chiropractors because Jared can do that in his life, but a lot of people in his profession, but a lot of people, they've been to a chiropractor to get adjusted because you might feel like something is just a little off, like something was a little bit out of alignment. And when he pops you back into place, suddenly it doesn't hurt as bad. You kind of feel a little bit of relief. And maybe you felt a little bit of that today because your relationship with yourself was maybe put back into alignment just a little bit. And you felt that peace and you felt that relief. Because when you're out of alignment, things are harder, maybe almost painful. But when you're in alignment, you have that inner peace and things feel a little bit more doable. And so when you're in alignment with yourself, in this relationship with yourself, it's not going to make things easier. It just makes it more doable, more handleable, if that's a word, easier to handle. You have confidence in knowing you have your own back. You're going to cheer yourself on. Many times we can't change our circumstances and the things that are going on, but we can control how we treat ourselves and how we choose to show up. And so if we're constantly beating ourselves up, we're going to show up to those hard times beat down, so tired, with our shoulders just drooping, carrying the weight of the world. So it's time to stop. It's time to be our own best friend. It's time to just start treating ourselves differently, giving ourselves grace in whatever season we're in. And it starts with the small change of how you talk to yourself, accepting who you are and still loving yourself anyway. Seeing the good that's in your heart and loving yourself harder because of it. Understanding and knowing you're perfectly made as you are right now. And when you start to love yourself unconditionally in this way, you start to take care of yourself in a way you didn't before. Think about it. You take special care of those things that you love, those things that are special to you. You're going to treat extra well, right? That's how I want you to start to treat yourself. And you'll start to take better care of yourself when it comes from this place of love. Now, back to that alignment analogy of going to the chiropractor. He pops you back into place. You're in alignment. It feels good. The pain is gone for a minute. the thing most people don't realize about getting alignments or like being popped back into place, that once you are popped into place, you have to do the work to keep it there. Now, in reference to the body, that means strengthening the muscles around it, like stretching to keep it limber, exercises to help that whatever body part stay in that place. You might have felt some alignment after we ran through this exercise, but now begins the work of keeping it there. And honestly, one of the best ways is to just think about these things that you just said to yourself. And hopefully, if you had the chance, or maybe later, write them down. And then I want you to read them every day. I want you to build that self-love muscle. We're talking about core muscles in this challenge and building that strength. The same thing with ourselves. It's the same thing with how we love ourselves. It's a muscle. It's a relationship. Like, think of that relationship with yourself as a muscle you have to strengthen every day. So that is what I wanted to talk about today, to just get you thinking about this relationship with yourself and how your health can go one way or another, depending on where you're at with yourself. And it's a really fascinating thing. I've been through, we talked about this last week. All of us have done some type of diet or program, and we were able to do it. And a lot of us saw success, or we had friends see success, but it wasn't sustainable. And that's the first part that we try to teach in this challenge and in the program, is we try to teach you, like, it has to be sustainable, and it also has to be effective. It has to work, but it has to be something you can keep doing every day. And same with this mental health work and this relationship with yourself. If you can get that into alignment, suddenly taking care of yourself physically is so much more doable. Loving everybody else in your life is so much more doable because you have this love for yourself inside of you. Your mental health and taking care of that feels doable because you've got your own back no matter what comes. And it's a powerful place to be. So I know that was a lot. I know it was like drinking from a fire hose, lots of things to think about, but I hope that if anything, your takeaway from this is it's just time to start treating ourselves a little bit differently and learning to love ourselves through whatever process we choose to go through. And that is what complete health is. And that's what complete health can look like. So I hope that helped. Are there any questions, or is there any comments? I see some of the comments coming through. I'm glad that a lot of you were able to do this with me, whether you were writing it down or whether you were doing it in your head and just kind of thinking and picturing those things. Hopefully, if you were driving, you didn't close your eyes, but it doesn't sound like anyone got in a wreck, so we're good.
Camille, I just want to say thank you. This is absolutely one of my favorite exercises you do. And I hope after all these years later, after you did that on Good Morning Utah or whatever it's called, that you realize what a big heart you have. That's my favorite thing about you, is you just have the biggest heart. And thank you for sharing your heart with us.
Definitely. I love working in these groups of smaller people. I know there's just, a handful of us on this call today, but what I love about this is it's easier to be more vulnerable in these intimate settings. And sometimes it's hard to find a group of people where you can be vulnerable like this and where you can really have these conversations and talk. And I know this challenge is only like 14 days long, and it's hard to really get to know the people we're with. But there's such a power in community when women come together and when they do it from a place of wanting to be better, wanting to just level themselves up. And so I hope that you have felt a little bit of that today. And I hope that it kind of just carries you through this week, through this month, through this year. And hopefully it was a really good start to 2025 for you. Is there anything else that anybody would like to add or share? And if not, totally fine. Oh, hey, Jared, the man on the call. Welcome to our women's session.
You guys, this was so good. I didn't necessarily picture myself as a little girl, but the meaning wasn't lost on me, like by any means. And I think this was beautiful, Camille, and I don't want to take away from anything that you've said, but from a professional perspective, if you tie your happiness to an outcome, or in other words, if you spend your whole life telling yourself, I will be happy when, you'll never get there. As one who's worked with a lot of women, especially in the field of fitness and weight loss, I can't tell you how many of them will come in and say, well, I have the goal to lose 5 pounds. I'll be happy when I lose 5 pounds. And we get there, we get to that 5 pound weight loss, and it's like, this isn't what I thought that it was. Maybe I need to lose 5 pounds. Maybe I need to lose five more. And we get there, and she's like, I've lost 10 pounds, and yet I'm still not happy. This hasn't brought me what I thought that it would. And one of my favorite sayings, it's actually a Haitian proverb that says, behind mountains are more mountains.
Mm.
And so like the meaning is when you get to the top, when you get to that peak, there's just another mountain waiting. And sometimes the analogy that I like to draw is tying your happiness to your results is like chasing a sunset. Imagine you're on a boat and imagine you want to get to where the sun is setting. You're like, I want to chase that sunset. And you sail and you get to that point. And what has happened? Well, the horizon has changed and now it's further. And you say, well, I'll be happy when I get to that horizon. And you sail to that point, and guess what? The horizon has changed again. And so the key to this, and to kind of reiterate what Camille said, the key isn't arriving at the horizon. The key is falling in love with sailing. And another one of my favorite quotes, this is by a Vietnamese monk. He said, there is no way to happiness, and that happiness is the way. And what we need to do is figure out how to fall in love with the journey and fall in love with the idea of becoming and progressing and developing. And babe, I think that you nailed that. I think that you hit that right on the head. This was so great. So that's all I wanted to say.
Well, thank you guys. I hope that you just have a wonderful rest of your week. As Jared and I were talking, we know that this challenge wraps up on Sunday, but we thought it would be fun to just do one last live hurrah, one last live call on Monday. And we can talk about, what do you do next? Like after we are finished with these 14 days, like what can you do next? And so Jared and I will just say, this is what you can do to keep going. Like we're going to give you some different ideas and ways to keep this momentum through the rest of 2025. So if you want to join us for that last live coaching call on Monday, we would love to have you there. But we will send out an invite to that too. So, okay, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll talk to you later. Bye.